Quick disclaimer. So something is wrong with our fire alarm system in our apartment, and we've changed batteries, we've had maintenance come, and they still can't fix it. So throughout this video, you may hear a little bit of beeping. I apologize, but just pretend like you don't hear it. It'll be real quick. I think it'll do it like 3 times, and then it'll take a little break, and then it'll do it again later on. So yeah, just want to get a little disclaimer before we get into today's video. If you've been telling yourself that you're lazy, not disciplined, or unmotivated, I want you to pause and think about it, because what if that's really not true? Most of our behavior is conditioned and not chosen. You didn't choose a lot of the beliefs and systems that you live by. In this video, I'm going to bring awareness to the fact that you are not lazy, you are just programmed. Since you were in the womb, and even before time, if you think about your family, your mother, your grandparents, and your ancestors, you have been conditioned to think a certain way, to behave a certain way, to believe certain things. And that's kind of how you've been living your life. That's what your foundation is. It's based on what you were taught. And so I want to just kind of unlock that and bring that to your awareness in this video. I have spoke about it recently in other videos, but today I'm going to dive a little bit deeper and to just simply make you guys aware. This is the first video of a series that I'm doing for February, where I am basically bringing awareness to the world about programming, about being in a stuck mindset, being trapped, and just like bringing awareness to the fact that you did not choose the life that you're living, and that you need to be aware of that so that you can decide to become a leader and make decisions based on the path that you're supposed to take in life. Most people are going about a path that was given to them by their parents, by the school systems, by the government, by social media. They're not living their own lives. They are just following this path that was already created for them. And I was a victim to that as well. And it wasn't until recently when I really discovered what I'm supposed to be doing, what my strengths are, and how I'm supposed to be serving the greater good. And so in this month, I just want to really bring awareness to different things that you don't know is controlling you, so that moving forward, when I talk about becoming a leader of your life, you already have that strong foundation of understanding what is actually meant for you and what isn't meant for you. So like I said, in this video, we're going to talk about the fact that it's not that you're lazy. It's not that you don't have any motivation or that you don't have any structure. It's just the fact that you've been programmed to think a certain way, to behave a certain way. So these things come natural to you, and it's just the fact that you need to become aware of it so that you can make appropriate changes in your life. So we're going to get into what programming actually is. Programming is kind of like a gaming system. When you buy a gaming system, it's already a set program that has been coded, that has been created for you. You just have to plug the game system into whatever bigger system that you have, and then you go along with what the program actually is. Or it's kind of like, I don't know if your grandparents used to say, oh, go ahead and turn on that program, turn on that TV, turn on that show. Little did they know, they were turning on an extra program, and they were actually being programmed. You're being shown something to make you think or behave a certain way. So I'm going to list some of the main things that programs you to kind of have that kind of engraves the way you see the world. It kind of engraves your raw views and your perspectives on life. So first of all, your family patterns. So whatever your family religion is, your political views, your systems and routines. So say for instance, like if your family has a tradition of, oh, everyone has to eat at a certain time, whether it's breakfast, lunch, or dinner. Systems for, like, I could think about my own childhood, like systems with what my routine was when I came home from school. But basically your family patterns, how they deal with conflict, how they deal with stress, how they communicate with each other, how they deal with family trips, how they deal with family trauma. Your family patterns shape the way that you are being programmed. It shapes the way you see the world, and even like how you solve problems. So for example, for me personally, and in most of this video, I'm going to be speaking a lot about my personal experience with all of these things. Family patterns, for example, like I grew up in a household where we were disciplined with whippings, and we were also disciplined with You know, maybe not the most nice language was used to talk to me. And I found myself using those same communication styles in my relationship. So family patterns definitely shape the way that you're being programmed. School and work conditioning. We all know the whole 9 to 5 thing is a program. It's a way of life that people are starting to realize is not suitable. It's not really sustainable. It doesn't lead to true fulfillment or success in certain ways. School conditions you from the time we start school. We're taught this 8-hour day, which is getting us ready for the 8-hour work day. You know, you wake up, you have your breakfast, you go to school, you're sitting in this classroom for X amount of hours, and then you go home. Boom. That's how you are being programmed as a child to get ready for that same type of experience when you start work. So school and work definitely conditions you. Think about when teachers say, like, raise your hand to speak. They don't even know, well, they do know, that's why they do it, but that's programming you to think a certain way. I remember being a kid and being like, the fact that I have to ask to go to the restroom is kind of crazy. Like, if I have to use the restroom because I'm drinking my water, I'm drinking my liquids, and it's just a natural part of, you know, the human system, that our biological system, is kind of crazy that I have to ask to go do something that's very natural to me. And like, I get it. They don't want kids just thinking that they can go to the restroom every 5 minutes, but I never liked or like even understood why that was even a thing as a child. And so all of these are just some different things that I would think about and have been kind of reflecting on, is how school and work definitely conditions you to think a certain way. Because even in your workplace, like with my staff, they have to ask me to go to the restroom, and I'm like, dang, like I feel so bad the fact that I have to say, oh, hey, give us 5 minutes, or yeah, you can go ahead. It's kind of crazy. So school and work definitely play a huge role in the way we're conditioned, even when it comes to eating times and, you know, just understanding like different morals and values. We learn those from school and work. Culture and media, that is a huge one, especially in the Black community. I love to speak about this. The Black community, the Black culture, when you think about our music, our fashion, our hair, the way we design things, the way we create, very beautiful. And we're going to speak about that too, being that it's Black History Month. I love being Black. I love my culture, but sometimes I know for a fact it can be detrimental when you think about just the overall like look or view of Black culture. When you think about like the music that we listen to, the rap, the hip hop, the gang violence, the way that women or men are portrayed in the media when it comes to the Black community, it's doing us more harm than good. But these are ways that we are being conditioned. In a previous video, I talked about the City Girls, for example, how they created this whole propaganda, I like to call it, around men and using them for money and being sugar babies and things of that nature, and how that shaped the way people deal with relationships and deal with men. That was them programming us. And so the culture and social media has a huge influence on the way that we think, the way that we operate, the way that we dress, the way that we talk, the way that we walk. And it can be a good thing or it can be a bad thing, but just know that it definitely has an influence on the way that you operate. And then trauma responses posing as habits. So as I kind of mentioned earlier when we talked about family patterns, when you have been through a traumatic experience, you see things differently. You start to maybe talk differently, behave differently because of that trauma. And then those new ways of thinking and doing become habits. These are ways that you are being programmed to behave a certain way. So say, for example, you were abused as a child in some shape or form. You may, for example, grow up to be very avoidant. You may maybe grow up to be very angry. The way you communicate to people you may be very angry or hostile, having bad attitudes. And these are things that just will become natural to you. And it's really just a trauma response. So you have to know that everything that you consume, everything that you do unconsciously are all because you have been programmed and conditioned to do it. And so it's important that you become aware of it, because you have to understand that you didn't choose that. It's something that someone else chose for you, or is a result of some type of experience. And so that's really why I want to speak about this, is because you have to know that you didn't choose it, but now that you are aware, you can make a choice, and that is what it takes to really be a leader of your life. So now I'm going to give you guys some very specific examples for myself to kind of help you guys understand what I mean. So, for example, I did not grow up in athletic or sport, any type of sport involvement, and that led me to be lazy towards exercise. So I never played sports. My mom didn't put me into any type of cheer teams. I wanted to cheer, but I was never granted that opportunity. And then I tried out for cheerleading my 9th grade year. I didn't make the team. So when it came to like exercise and gym class, I hated it. Like, I hated gym. I hated working out. I hated running. And it's so funny now, because now I love it. I love to exercise. I exercise almost every single day. And so I was programmed to not like exercise simply off the fact that nowhere around me even exercised. My mom didn't exercise at all. My dad played basketball when he was in high school, but that was so far-fetched. Like, it wasn't something that I was really, well, I will say he did play basketball at his work. And so my sister and my siblings and I would go and watch him play. But I mean, that was pretty much the only amount of exercise or sport involvement that I ever seen. Outside of that, no one around me played sports, and so I was just lazy towards exercise. It's not something that I enjoyed. It's not something that I liked. It wasn't until I started to gain weight in college when I was like, okay, like, it's time to start exercising. It's time to start eating healthy. And that's when I made the shift, and I started to choose the fact that, you know, exercise is good for me, and that I have the ability to do hard things such as exercising. Next thing, so I did not grow up in a household that prioritized eating healthy. So this kind of goes along with the last one. We ate a lot of processed foods because we were living off of government assistance. So my mom, she bought a lot of, you know, Hot Pockets and pizza rolls and noodles and Pop-Tarts and toaster strudels and cereal. That is most of the food that I ate. I ate a lot of processed foods, and I carried that with me even when I went to college, until I started, you know, going on my own health journey. But that's not something I chose. It was just a part of the family patterns, a part of the conditioning, because that is just what we were granted access to, and that is just what was normal in my household. So it's not something that I chose. It was just something that was just brought on to me by my family. Next thing, and this kind of goes along with trauma responses posing as habits. I can be very sarcastic, and I used to have a really bad temper and attitude, and that came from my parental norms and ways of communicating. My dad, very sarcastic man, very, very, very sarcastic man, and he's gotten a little better, but very sarcastic. And he used to have a really bad temper, but he's gotten so much better at that. My mom, same thing, very bad attitude, smart mouth, like, that's just how they communicated to us, and that's how they also communicated with other people. And so that was what I was seeing as normal, and I was using that same way of communicating with my husband, with people in my workplace. Like, that is just what was normal to me. And then I realized, you know, my husband helped me realize, like, hey, like, it's not normal for you to like get attitudes over stuff like this. It's not normal for you to respond to things like this. And that made me aware of, like, dang, like, I was definitely programmed unconscious. Like, my parents weren't intentionally doing it. And that's what you also have to know. They were also programmed to be a certain way, to act a certain way, to speak a certain way. And they're just putting those things onto you. And so that is just something that I really had to be aware of, and it allowed me to kind of just see things from a different perspective. Next thing, I was programmed to feed into or care about celebrities and reality TV. My mom, I grew up with her watching Keeping Up the Kardashians, all the little, you know, basketball wives, Love and Hip Hop. And as you watch those shows, you start to get connected to the people on the show, especially with reality TV. So now I was following Kylie Jenner and Kim Kardashian and, you know, Jocelyn and like all these different like people that were on these TV shows, until I realized, wait, first of all, these shows are very toxic, more so like the Basketball Wives in Love with Hip Hop, the stuff that they're talking about and glorifying the sex and the drugs and the alcohol and the fighting and the violence, all of that stuff was just the cheating, the scandals, like that stuff was like low-key programming me to think a certain way or to think that certain things were normal. But also it also programmed me to care about these celebrities, and that's what I'm spending my time looking at on social media. And my mom didn't know that that's what she was doing, but she was programming me to care about those things. So like I said, your parental or your familial patterns have a huge role on what you do or what you don't do. I didn't choose to care about that stuff. It just kind of happened because I was watching it with my mom. The next thing, I believe the 9 to 5 was the only way out, and I believe that college was the only way out. I went to college because I just thought that was the next best thing. And don't get me wrong, I loved my college experience. It was amazing. But now looking back at it, I don't even use my actual degree for a job. I use it more so as a skill set because my degrees in social work, and it definitely gave me a lot of knowledge when it came to understanding human behavior and understanding how to serve people and how to speak to people and things of that nature. So it's definitely more of a skill set than something that I use to get work. I basically just kind of translate what I learned into how I deal with people in my workplace and how I'm able to do things like this on YouTube. But other than that, I used my degree when I first graduated as a case manager, and I absolutely hated the job. But back to the main point, I thought that was the way out because that's what my parents told me to do. That's what the world tells you to do. They want you to go to college. They want you to get in debt. It was just a way of programming. And so that kind of goes along with school and work conditioning. They just make you think that that's the only way to go. But now we're seeing people are getting rich from YouTube, starting businesses, content creating. We're seeing that you can become successful without any degree, without working a 9 to 5, without, working up until you're 65 or 70 until retirement. We're seeing that those things are not realistic anymore, and that those aren't the only ways to be successful. And then also just being on autopilot. Like me personally, I'm somebody who was in survival mode. I was somebody who lived a very unstable lifestyle because I moved a lot as a child, and then in and out of college when it comes to being in a dorm, then moving back home, I was just living a lifestyle of never being stable. And then also just having to do things out of stress, working multiple jobs as a kid because, I was an independent person and I just took care of myself a lot. Not to say I didn't have any familial support, I did, but for the most part, I definitely took care of myself when I was in college. But that put me on autopilot, and I thought that was normal, and it wasn't. So these are just some specific examples to me as to what made me realize that I was being programmed, and also just to help you reflect on your lifestyle and think about what are you doing that you didn't actually choose? What are you doing that is a norm that really doesn't have to be your norm? And once you become aware of that, you can start to make some changes in your life and start to choose things that better fit your personality, your character, and the path that you want to take in life. So like I said, this video was just about making you guys aware. So I'm just going to end with a couple things. Awareness is what will lead to leadership. When you take ownership over your life, when you start to see things from a higher level and understand that you were programmed, you were conditioned, it makes you conscious of it so that now you can lead and make decisions. You can't lead what you're unconscious of. If you don't even know that this is happening or that what you consume is showing up in your life physically, then you can't be a leader of your life, because at that point you're not choosing, you are just operating based on what somebody else is putting onto your life or choosing for you. So now you have a choice, and instead of blaming yourself, you're now taking responsibility. So listen, it's not your fault. What you do on a daily basis, it's not necessarily your fault, but it's time now that you take control and that you become responsible and say, okay, now from this point on, my life choices are my fault. I have to choose what I want to listen to, what I want to watch, who I want to be around, what career path I want to take, how I want to dress, how I want to wear my hair. It's not about what I see everybody else doing or what was told to me. It's about what I actually want to choose. And that is what true leadership is. And that is how you step into that path of being able to lead others, because now you're making more decisions from a grounded place, from a place of knowing yourself, from a place of clarity. And, you actually understand things instead of just, taking all hands off and letting someone else make those decisions for you. This is where inner work begins. Start going to therapy, start questioning everything, focus on reflecting and getting to know yourself better. Let go of some of these idols, let go of some of these things that really don't matter, such as the TV shows, the consistent scrolling, the binge watching TV, the listening to the trash music. Start to, fast from some of those things, let go of them, listen to them less, watch them less, consume them less, so that you can start to really know who you are. One of the best things that actually helped me to heal and understand this is journaling. So I want to give you guys a couple of prompts. First question is, where might I be running on autopilot? So think about, what are those things that are just unconscious? They're part of your routine. You don't even think about it. You just do it, and it may just be bringing you harm, but just sit down and think about it and reflect on it and be honest with yourself. And then, what beliefs feel inherited and not chosen? So think about maybe your political beliefs, your religious beliefs, your spiritual beliefs, your emotional beliefs, communication styles, your habits. What are those things that you believe in that don't even feel like are true to you? You're just doing it because your parents made you think this way, your school, someone you heard on social media said it, one of your friends said it, your cousins. Be honest and actually sit down, and it's going to take a couple of times. Maybe you just have a day where you focus on a certain category of your life. Maybe you only focus on career, you only focus on relationship, but take time to reflect and really think about where everything comes from. Question everything. This is where, like I said, where inner work begins, where you really start to know yourself and you take off all these layers and get to the root of who you truly are. This is the path to leadership. This is the path to getting away from being a part of all this worldly stuff and doing what you are really called to do instead of doing what the world wants you to do. So I hope you can take some stuff from this video, some of the examples that I gave about myself, so that you can take it for your own life and make better decisions from a clear space and from truly knowing who you are. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys in my next video.